I wanted to take a few minutes to explain a popular quote about fascism that's attributed to Benito Mussolini, the dictator of Italy from, I think, 41 to 43. So I'm not going to be able to fully source this quote. That's kind of a different video for a different time. But I'm going to tell you what this commonly used definition of fascism is, and it's attributed to Mussolini, but I can't prove who actually said it. The quote is, "Fascism should more properly be called corporatism, since it is the merger of state and corporate power." Now, there's an explanation for this that's attributed to Mussolini that is also unsourced, but the explanation for this is that corporationism is above socialism and above liberalism. A new synthesis is created. It is a symptomatic fact that the decadence of capitalism coincides with the decadence of socialism. Corporative solutions can be applied anywhere. Now, I want to explain, in the 40s, corporationism and corporatism, it meant a very different thing from the way we think of corporatism now. So you hear this quote, "Fascism should more properly be called corporatism since it's the merger of state and corporate power." And in the modern day, 2020, we hear this quote and we think, oh, corporate power. He's talking about the power of corporations, business corporations. He's actually not. In the 40s, and especially in Italy, where the Vatican is, the seat of the Catholic Church, the Holy See, there's this idea called the Corpus Mysticum. If you learn about Catholic social teaching and understand that the idea of Jesus is, he's giving us all a bit of the sacrament. He's giving us all a little bit of the bread, the panis angelicus. He cuts his life into pieces and he gives you his bread as his last resort. So it's like we're all part of Jesus. We're all part of the church. We're all part of the state. And Mussolini wanted to bring together the power of the church with the power of the state. See, the goal of the Italian state, or one of the purposes of it, is to insulate and surround and protect the Vatican City from foreign invaders or whoever might threaten it. So Mussolini saw that they should work together. All the right-wing leaning elements, fascism and the Catholic Church kind of came together, and the degree of corporate influence and the degree of oligarchy depended on it depended on what your view of Catholicism was. Whether Catholicism's role is to bring a monolithic, single, centralized religious authority into the world and, have everything, dogmatic, and dominionism is a type of Catholic teaching or Christian teaching, dominionism, like you treat everything like your property, and there's a strict hierarchy of God and, fathers and then mothers and then children and then pets. So it's strictly hierarchical on the right wing of Catholicism. But then there's the left wing tradition of Catholicism and other types of Christianity, other sects, that is more in line with the Christian liberation theology and other forms of religious liberation theology that are more anarchistic and more like we're all made in God's image, so therefore we're all equal, that kind of thing. So there's two competing trends of thought in Catholic social teaching. One is very left wing and egalitarian. The other is very right-wing and strict and doctrinaire and dogmatic and dominionistic. So those were ideologies that were battling out in the culture of Italy in the 1940s. And that's why Mussolini, if he said it, that's why somebody said about Italian fascism, it's the merger of state and corporate power. Corporate is meant to allude to the Corpus Mysticum, the mystical body of the people. See, when all the Catholics come together, it's as if they're part of the same organism. And that's an idea that extends to politics, too. It's like we're all part of the state. Like if you read Thomas Hobbes, like when you read about the Leviathan, it's sometimes depicted as one big guy with a crown and sword made out of a bunch of tiny little people. That's the Corpus Mysticum, but on a secular political level. And the Catholic Church tries to embody the actual Corpus Mysticum. Like the church is the body. All the Catholic people are the body of the Catholic people, and that's the body of Jesus because we've all eaten the same bread in church. Like that's corporatism. And Mussolini's goal was to bring together the political and the religious corporativistic ideas and to relate everybody. And you must obey the church. You must obey the state. You must always say yes to every authority. So that's my take on the quote, "Fascism should be more properly called corporatism since it's the merger of state and corporate power." Now, I just want to clarify what I'm not saying, since it's always necessary. I'm not saying this to defend any particular type of fascism or to promote Mussolini. I'm not even sure that Mussolini said this. I just know it's a popular quote that's used to define and explain fascism, so I wanted to give my take on it. As I said, who said it and when, where this quote came from, I don't know. I'm not able to find that information. But if anyone wants to make a comment, please do. But yeah, research Corpus Mysticum, Catholic social teaching, and then look up about the etymological differences and similarities between federalism and fidelity, faithfulness. Federalism and also fascism is fascinating, and fascism and fasten have the same root. I think also maybe affix might have a common root or something to do with it. So think about the fact that in German, the word for a federal government is a Bund. It's, that's like a bond. A Bund is a bond, and it's binding people together. And that's symbolized in the fascist symbol, which is the axe. It's a bunch of strings. It's twine tied around an axe. It's a faggot of sticks. It's a bundle of sticks, a bound bundle of sticks, a faggot with twine wrapped around it and an axe handle. And that fascist symbol is up in Congress right now. And they got swastikas on the chairs. So America's fascist because we don't know what fascism actually means. We assume that everything corporate-related or business-related must be fascist, and we assume that anything government-related must be liberating, because the government's here to protect us from the state governments or something. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So we got to be clear about our definitions. Just because you hear someone say corporationism or corporative or corporatism doesn't mean they're necessarily talking about right-wing oligarchy or businesses. And just keep in mind, not all forms of fascism or authoritarianism are right-wing. Mussolini and also Franco, they kind of drifted from left-wing to right-wing fascism and authoritarianism. And so did Hitler, because they were trying to get left-wingers to fall for their bullshit that the best way to support equality was to make everybody in that nation equal, instead of having respect for the needs of other nations of the earth and other people in those nations. So yeah, read your history books, read your definitions, understand what federalism and the Bund idea is, understand the definition, etymologically, the definition of fascism, and let me know if you have any thoughts on this, whether fascism should be more properly called corporatism, since it is the merger of state and corporate power. If you guys have any leads on who said this, the Wikipedia on this wiki quote says it's from Giovanni Gentile, not Mussolini, but there's a lot of other information on there, so it's really not clear. So anything you could do to help me out or give your views on the etymological implications of what I'm talking about here with fascism, corporativism, and Corpus Mysticum. Also, it couldn't hurt to read Max Stirner, because he talked a lot about how people try to use the state to impose religious morals on people. It's like a representative is elected. It's like they become almost like Jesus. They're held to the same standards. They're expected to be an example of everyone. They're expected to be an example to everyone and an example for everyone. And they're supposed to teach people morality. And also their public persona, if they do something wrong, they get sacrificed and lynched in public. So basically representatives are like Jesus. And even in our what looks like a secular modern state institution, our politicians, the people who make the rules, the people who put the symbols there, who put the swastikas on the chairs and put the bundles of sticks up on, behind the podium, the dais, they are trying to put fascist and theocratic ideas and symbolism into our secular state. I almost said secular state religion. They're trying to make the secular state into its own religion, where there is no God and your only God is the state. Don't obey God or your own conscience even. Just obey the law, or it'll cut your head off with a big fascist bundle of sticks with an X sticking out of one end of it. Faggot. Yeah, so don't obey God, don't obey the state. It's all the same thing. It's all a mix. Your conscience is what tells you what's right. Fuck fascism in all its forms.